The Edmonton Elks will host the Winnipeg Blue Bombers on Thursday night, where they are 12.5-point underdogs at home. Canadian quarterback Trey Ford will make his first start of the season after Stephen McAdoo was demoted on Edmonton's coaching staff this past week. The clubs met at IG Field in Week 7, which ended in a 28-14 win for the Blue Bombers. Can Trey Ford be the spark that Edmonton needs to snap a 21-game home losing streak?
I don't think it's going to be enough. And the reason is I don't see the Edmonton Elks as a dry brush pile that's just waiting for that little spark. I instead see them as a moss-covered rock in the Highlands of Scotland, soaking wet from the rain. This team needs not just a spark, this team needs a stick of dynamite to get going. And Trey Ford, we know, is a fabulous runner. Right? We know that he has done sensational things with his legs at the professional level and obviously at the U Sports level at the University of Waterloo. But I'm highly skeptical that his supporting cast is good enough, that the game plan will be good enough. We don't know exactly what Edmonton's offense is going to look like post Stephen McAdoo. Maybe Jarius Jackson is going to end up, he's been an OC in this league before, maybe he's going to end up completely turning this unit around. And frankly, it would be the best thing in the world, not just for the city of Edmonton, but for the CFL, for the Elks to shock the Winnipeg Blue Bombers this week. Unfortunately for those folks, I don't think this is going to happen. Give me the Blue Bombers, and I'm going to eat all of those points. I'm taking them against the spread as well, minus 12.5.
I think you make an astute observation, Hodge, that the Edmonton Elks are like a mossy stone in the Scottish Highlands, but Trey Ford, at the very least, is some peat, right? He's highly flammable. You can heat your home with him, right? He's a guy who is an electric athlete, and I think putting him in the lineup changes things for the Edmonton Elks. Now, I'm not going to go out on a limb and say that Edmonton is going to win that game. I am not saying you don't have to check me in to the hospital just quite yet, Hodge. But I think Trey Ford is good enough, or at least athletic enough, for them to cover this massive point spread. Winnipeg, we all know, had an emotional victory last week. I think they're going to come out a little bit lower this week, and they have struggled in the past with running quarterbacks, with mobile guys, with athleticism. They've never faced someone who runs a 4.4. Trey Ford may only throw for 150 yards. I bet he rushes for 100 as well. I'm taking the Elks to cover and the Bombers to win this game.
The Montreal Alouettes are 4.5-point favorites over the Saskatchewan Roughriders on Friday night in what could be Cody Fajardo's first game against his former team. The veteran passer missed practice on Tuesday due to a shoulder injury, though head coach Jason Moss indicated it's likely that Fajardo will play. Who you got?
Got the Alouettes in this one. I've become a believer in their team. I think Fajardo is going to be on the field, and he actually did his best work last week after he was hurt, not before. So I fully have confidence in his ability to be effective against the Riders. And I think him and head coach Jason Moss are both going to be extremely motivated for this matchup. You may see a fired up Cody Fajardo of old, maybe running around a little bit more than we've gotten used to seeing in the last couple of years as he tries to stick it to his former team. Pick the Owls here.
Hey, Cody Fajardo often talks about his faith and his Christianity, and I'm pretty sure one of the tenets of that religion is forgiveness. With that being said, I feel like Cody Fajardo, as much as he is a stand-up guy who says all the right things, there surely has to be a place in his heart or in his mind where he wants some revenge on Rider Nation. He wants to beat that team that unceremoniously cast him aside, not even after last season was done, but while the team was still mathematically eligible for the playoffs last year. Let's not forget, he was benched while the team could have still theoretically made the postseason with a home Grey Cup in 2022. I like the Alouettes more and more each time I see them. They had to get the protection going. They had to get William Stanback going. Guess what? The last 2 weeks they've done so. And by the way, JC, yes, this team is 4-3. Not an amazing record, but their 3 losses have come against Winnipeg, BC, and Toronto, who have been kicking everybody else they've played, essentially, so far this season, aside from maybe a few injuries. So to me, this team has done a great job of showing that they are able to beat middling teams or bad teams across the league consistently. I see the Riders as a middling team, so I will take the Alouettes to win and cover at home as well. The Calgary Stampeders will visit the BC Lions on Saturday night, where the Leos are 5.5-point favorites despite coming off a crushing loss to Winnipeg. Vernon Adams Jr. appears likely to return to the starting role after dealing with a knee injury, while Calgary is coming off a surprising win over the Toronto Argonauts. Can the Lions win and cover against the visiting Stamps?
Guys, this is not even a question. The Calgary Stampeders are going to be riding high because they beat the undefeated team, but their offense is pathetic. Jake Maier threw for 149 yards last week. That's not going to beat the BC Lions, who are going to be absolutely fired up, and they're getting back their franchise quarterback to boot, who I have no doubt will be able to step seamlessly back into the lineup and light things on fire against what has been, quite frankly, a little bit of a suspect Calgary secondary at times. I'm taking the Lions. No matter what this spread is, I think it's going to be a sizable victory for BC.
Yeah, I'm surprised this line is not higher. If Vernon Adams Jr. was 100%, the starter, and everybody knew he was healthy, I would expect this line to be at -7 for the Lions, even as high as maybe -9. So to me, -5.5 is a very good line. There's ample opportunity there, I think, for the reasons that you mentioned. I mean, I don't see the Calgary Stampeders as a high-scoring team right now. And when these two teams met back in week 1, this was at McMahon Stadium, and the Lions came out with a 10-point win. So if you can win by 10 points at McMahon, surely you can win by at least 5.5 in the friendly confines of BC Place Stadium, where the Lions have played very well for the past season. So I like the Leos in this one for sure.
The Ottawa Redblacks will visit the Toronto Argonauts on Sunday to finish out Week 10. The Argos were originally 10.5-point favorites for this game, though they have fallen to 3.5-point favorites due to the uncertainty surrounding the health of starting quarterback Chad Kelly. Can the Redblacks shake a 2-game losing streak to hand Toronto their second straight loss?
The Argonauts, we're recording this on Wednesday morning, by the way. The Argonauts do not practice for the first time this week until Wednesday afternoon. And so we don't have any official updates on Chad Kelly at this point of the recording. However, if he plays, I am smashing the Toronto Argonauts at -3.5. I'm happy to take them up to probably -10. I mean, the Toronto Argonauts are going to be, I think, a very motivated team after losing a surprise game last week following Chad Kelly's injury. I know the injury was obviously not serious. Had that been a playoff game, I think Chad Kelly finishes no matter what, for reasons we talked about early in the show. The Argos were smart for holding him out. But to me, this is a team that has to continue its winning ways to keep putting room or at least maintain their lead over the Montreal Alouettes in the East Division. They are better than Ottawa. Ottawa, I think, has really taken a step back since, again, Crum's sanity set in with back-to-back wins over Winnipeg and Calgary. They've scored only 36 points over their last 2 games, losing to 2 middling teams in Hamilton and Saskatchewan. Heck, they lost to the Ticats even though the defense got 5 picks. Like, I am not liking at all what I'm seeing from the Ottawa Redblacks right now. I'm taking the Argos easily by 3.5. And again, up to 10, depending on how this line moves, depending on Chad Kelly's health.
Chad Kelly makes this a much more comfortable bet, but I really don't care if he plays or not, because I think the Argos win and cover this 3.5-point spread regardless of whether he's on the field or not. Now, I have no faith in Cameron Dukes at the helm of the Argos offense, but this is what I know. Defenses have figured out Dustin Crum right now. And over the last 2 weeks, he has not taken a step forward as a passer. In fact, I think he has taken a step back. Now he's going to go up against what is one of the best defenses in the league, against one of the best defensive minds in Corey Mace, and a team that not only generates turnovers at a crazy rate, but also scores on defense as well. I think the Argos defense can carry the load against this Redblacks team. I'm taking them no matter who's under center.